What's up, everybody? For those of you who are coming back to watch this all over again, and if you're new to the channel, welcome in. Happy to have you. I'm gonna go put my sunglasses back because I did not realize that I had them on my hat still. Well, it's still early. So today, that's what we're working on. Just profiling blades, and then I'm gonna grind them. What's up, Zach? How's it going, bud? Gotta get a move on, because I'd like to get at least one round into the kiln for heat treat today. If not a big deal, but it would sure make the rest of the week easier. What's up, Steven? Here we go. Oh, I love them, man. Thank you, brother. I love the TKL hats, too. They're really nice. What's up, dude? Lineman. Excellent. All right. Give me just a second. Come along, my friends. What's up, everybody? I'm Jacob with Very Good Knife Company. If you're new to the channel, welcome in. Happy to have you. So today I'm doing some blade work. Right now, we've just profiled up half a dozen Tradition Juniors, an 80 CRV2. We've got 7 Wasps, an 80 CRV2. And right now, everything's rough and it has a burr from that grinder. We're going to take it to the wire wheel, clean them up, and then we're going to put some layout dye on them and then grind them. We were just cleaning them up, that's all. That's a lineman. The only order that I have going at the moment. Almost done with this step. Two more. All right. Now we're pretty clean here. Take a look. That's what we got. Bunch of blades ready to go get some layout dye. Then we'll scribe and do the hollow grinding. All right. Now. No worries, brother. It's gonna be a minute before I get some Cerakote, but I'm gonna try that clear Cerakote thing. We're gonna see. 'Cause I'm curious. So I've still got layout dye from marking the pattern on. That I will not mess up. I won't mess with. I'm just getting our edges, where the edge is going to be, and then the sides, because these are going to be hollow ground. They will need a sideline scribed in, just to give me a reference. So I'll go over every one of them and give them a coating of layout dye. I just use a Dykem brush on layout dye. Used to use a spray on. Nobody makes a good one anymore. Haven't lost you guys, have I? Painting on pretty blue. This won't take too long. Before we get back to the more interesting stuff, like making sparks and really cool angles on steel. Look at there. Tipped them all over like dominoes. I'll be all right now. So this stuff is alcohol or acetone based. All you've got to do is just blow on it a little and it'll dry. Won't take too long. All right. Got them all covered in dye. Got my air. Accelerate this process just a little more. Now we have a bunch of blades that look like this. And we're going to take, I got 165, all 125s. So I use wing dividers for my center scribes. I scribe both sides of center. I'll leave about 30 thousandths. And then we'll scribe our sidelines on. Just like so. That's where I want the grind to stop at, both directions. Now I'll just do the rest of these. Don't need that other scribe. Just need the 125 scribe. Just go ahead and do all of them on the edge, then we'll go back and do all the sidelines. Then we'll go do fun stuff. Almost done. Right now, we'll get our sidelines on. So the wasps, now they all look like this now. If you can even see it, I can get them spread out. So they are all marked on the sides. And down the center, they're ready to go to the grinder. juniors. Didn't tip up the same. Maybe it did. Right there. Sometimes if I twist it off the end too much, it'll give me that line, which wouldn't look as terrible. But this one right here is where I needed to be. That's why I went back and corrected it. And again, these lines are just a reference as well, because in the end, they won't be there, and I will disregard them after a certain point anyway. This is just to get me as close to where I wanted to be without having to check it. Just a good, quick, rough end line. That's all they are. Just like that. Let's go to the grinder. So usually I use 36 grit to start with. Sometimes on Wasps and Tradition Juniors, Adventure Juniors, Mantis, anything that's thin or 1/8 inch and below. Sometimes the 36 grit is hard to get as precise. Yeah, you could say I've done this before. All right, so anyway, I'm going to start out with 60 grit because I have an excess of them, and I do like to use a 60 grit to start out on the thinner stuff sometimes. Just depends on how the rack of belts is cut. Here we go. One. What's up, Jack? Thanks, buddy. there's the first pass. Second pass. Third pass. I guess you could call that the fourth. Kind of have to touch around on it a little. Finish side. 4 or 5 passes. Then we get a little burn up there. These are unheat treated blades, so I'm not too worried about it. What's up, Larry? This belt still has some life in it. That was all of the tradition juniors. I'm going to try and get through this one. Well, you can see a backwards grind. See that Hawkville curve? Show you. Pretty easy. So it'll start out looking kind of rough, just the way it goes. Still looking kind of rough up in the top there. And now I'm going to do some correction. Now I've done a little correction. Now it's nice and clean. Go for another good pass. One more. There we go, just like that, backwards hollow grind. Now we'll do the other side, same way. Like that. like that. All right. Swap this out. Now all we have to do is get these wasps ground, and then we'll do 120 on everything. So I'm just going with another brand new 60 grit for all these wasps. We've just got 7 wasps, and these grinds are probably the smallest grind aside from the mosquito. These are the smallest grind that I do. 2 3/4 inches of hollow grind. Pretty small. Yeah, it's a lot of experience, Zach. I've done a lot of grinding. This one is a challenging grind. The hawkbill or the negative curve, especially with flat grinding. I really don't like flat grinding negative curves. They're just really difficult. Hollow grinding, it's not so bad though, because you can kind of use the edge of your wheel. I mean, you can do the same kind of technique with flat grinding, but as far as the hawkbill goes, the hollow grinding seems to be more forgiving. So, anyway, wasps. Ready? Pretty quick little grind. What's up, Bradford? Three more. One more. 120 grit on everything. $120. Grab me a belt. Grit. wasket swedges. through them all and do the shoulders. Like that. Thank you, Joseph. All right, so now we're gonna go back over to the bench, break out the acetone. Gonna get rid of all the layout dye because we are done with the rough grinding process. All these blades are pretty much ready to go to heat treat. Now, before they're actually ready to stick in a kiln, there is a couple little micro things that I've left to do to them. One of them is to clean all this layout dye off. That way some anti-scale coating on them and it'll stick real nicely. So in order to do that, we'll get some acetone and start cleaning off all our blades. And this goes really, really fast. easy. No. Lost one down in there. Right. So now they all just look like this. No more blue. That's what we wanted. So again, they're all covered in layout dye. We send them to meet Ace. Send them to meet Mr. Ace Tone. And they come back clean. Just like that. Voila. Now we'll go to our final step before heat treat. Which is layout, or anti-scale coating. Let's go do that. So for anti-scale coating, my goodness, I gotta get my bench reordered. There's stuff laying everywhere. So for anti-scale coating, I need my torch and the actual coating. Trying to decide whether or not I want to go get my drill out. But I think I'll just shake it today. Shake it real good. Open up our lid. Go to work on these. Now, I just like to dip them if they'll fit. They don't always fit. That's why I have some paintbrushes here for big blades, but most of my models will fit. I'm going to give it a dunk and I'm going to tap it off. See that little bead build up down at the edge? That's intentional. Then I use the map gas to set it in place. All I'm doing with this is taking the shiny off, the wet shiny. You guys can probably see it going away. Can you see it going away? Yeah, it's going away. Once that wet shiny is no longer, that's about good right there. Then we'll take it over to the kiln. And I'm going to use the old kiln because it's closest to my quench tanks. And place it in there. Just like that. So now we'll do the rest of those, get them ready for the kiln, and then load her up. I don't always have to torch them until the coating is dry. I'll just normally torch them about that much and let what heat has transferred to the blade do the rest. See it drying up. Can see it drying up. That's all we need out of it. Just like that. No, I'm just using the old one for now because it's closest to the quench tanks. I'm not going to run both of them just yet. When I do run both of them, I'm going to dedicate a day so I can turn off some other things. Because I have a feeling that I'm going to have some more power issues if I overload. The kilns only pull about 15 amps a piece, which isn't that much. But I am going to get myself another oil set up, a couple more tanks for the other kiln. Just going to get one more tank. It's just an oil can, or I mean an ammo can that I get from a local thrift store. That's what I use for my oil. Canola quenching oil. Alright, now I'm going to go set the rest of these in the kiln, because that is all that's going to fit on the rack anyway. And I got a little time. I'm going to go ahead and start one. Now, I normally don't like to double anything up on the racks. No double taking spots. That way everything gets a nice even soak. But I will put some on the ends. Get 8 blades in here if you put some on the ends. And I'm just putting one extra. Now with the wasps, you can put probably 9 or 10 of them in here. They're so small that they don't really heat up the oil that much. But I'm going to go ahead and run it. maybe we'll just sit here and blab until it's done. We'll turn the oil heater on. Up our tank. And turn our thermometer on. I'm actually going to put that I'll put that lineman XL, or I mean that lineman in with them too, because that'll be just spot on for about oil temperature. Go. All right, before it takes off too much. It's already at about 200 degrees. There we go. Full rack. Now I'll go ahead and do the rest of these while that is ramping up. Working and lurking, Stephen. I'm thinking I might have enough electrical juice to run them both, but I don't want to test it in the middle of a crucial time either. It's always when I'm in the middle of something really important that something goes wrong. That. One day, when I actually need it, because I don't need it right now, but one day I'm going to get myself a salt bath to do all my EDCRV2 in. And then I won't need any of this anti-scale coating. Too much. Last one. Didn't take all that long. Just a part of it. There we go. Those guys are all ready to go in the kiln next. And I'm not going to run both kilns just yet. I'm not positive that I won't have more electrical problems, but I could put them in the other kiln. Another reason why I'm not doing it right now is because I have not I haven't raced the kilns yet. What I mean by that is I haven't tested the ramp speed and how long it takes to get to temperature and whatnot. All right, now I'm just getting my oven preheated, and that way when we get done with the quenching and these blades sit under this goofy fan that sits on the wall. This is funny. Once the blades get cooled off after quenching, then they'll be ready to go in that oven. I just took a fan and screwed it to the wall. No, the button doesn't want to stay. The number 3 button. That's fine. I need me another fan there. All right, so what's next while we're waiting on that? I was going to do some of the heritage this week. Here's the pattern for the heritage. Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you. So I was going to do the heritage run this week, and I decided not to because I'm low on belts. I don't have any ADCR V2 in this size. I just have some Nitro V on hand, and that's what I was going to run them in. Well, they've all got to be thank you, brother. They've all got to be ground after heat treat, so that takes 2 belts, or 2 knives per belt. I only have 2 belts left, 2 36 grit belts, so that's only 4 of these guys to grind. I have had belts on order for a while now, and yeah, I've been buying combat abrasives for the past few years. We've bought belts, back when I was at 2 Jakes, we bought belts from everywhere that sold belts. We've tried every kind of belt, every brand of belt, everything. We just tried them all just to see. And of course, you know, you're always looking for that next magic belt. And I think the combat abrasives are pretty dang good belts. I like the Shredder ceramic belts, and that's kind of my judge is a good ceramic belt, because that's where the majority of my grinding comes from is those 36 grit, 60 grit, 120 grit ceramic belts. The prices are probably some of the best on the market, but man, they are not in a rush to ship out anything for anyone. That is for sure. I usually try and make sure that I have my belts figured out several weeks before, because if I need them, I just need to get them ordered now, and that's because I've always expected them to take forever. Well, they took forever again. I thought I had it timed right, but oh well, it is what it is. But that's why I'm running Wasps and Tradition Juniors this week, because I have a whole bunch of 60 grit belts. I still got a whole stack of them. About 12 or 13 of them there, I guess. That's all I got for 36s. This is usually full. This one's full. This one's full of 60s. This one always full of 60s. Anyway, we'll run them next week. They're on their way. But I guess while we're waiting, I was going to do a heat treat on live stream. Try and blab until then. I'm going to be late for dinner, but hopefully the missus hasn't gotten started on that just yet. But actually, I think we're doing something that can sit just a little longer. I think we're doing chili tonight. Anyway, I guess I could show you guys how the profiling process goes, huh? So the profiling process starts out right now. The current profiling process. Yeah, dude, I got to put my order in a month in advance. That's for sure. Good to see you, Blue Collar. Yes, sir. It's in the kiln right now. It's on its way up on temperature. It's at 926 degrees. The ADCRV2 heat treat recipe does not take all that long to get to 1535. Dudder, what's up? No worries, hon. I'll get there. It's just gonna be. Well, it's not. It's really not gonna be that late. I'm just gonna be here long enough to get them quenched, get them cooled, and then into that oven for round 1. So they'll be ready for round 2 tomorrow when I get here. I do sometimes let my oven run, but I have it in a safe spot, and it's on a shutdown timer, so it shuts off completely whenever it's done. All right, back to that profiling process. Right now, I still buy bars of steel, 4-foot bars of steel. I will be moving to sheets when I get plasma table set up. But for now, they all come like this. And then we'll go ahead and cut them out into the sizes that I need. And let's see. Swap me around here. I'm gonna say. So then I put some layout dye on them, and then I'll take my pattern and set it on the piece of steel. And then we'll clamp her down. Just like so. And then we'll go to the drill press, which I have got to, can you stay for just a second? Get the big drill out and put the, I think that one's new enough. 7/32 drill bit in. Actually, I made this pattern for 3/16 because I'm going to be switching to all 3/16 drill holes. That's a different topic, but 3/16. I'm going to mark all my holes with the pattern. See, each hole is marked, and then I'll come back over to the bench, use my scribe, not sure you guys can see that. Like so. Now we'll go ahead and drill it. So we've got our two screw holes, and then we'll do some weight relief holes. Make it just a little more balanced feeling. Just mainly taking some weight off of it. Not so much concerned with the balance of things. Take that one out. Put the big one back in. I don't have any on order right now, Zach. Not right at the moment. I have not had my ducks in a row figured out which exactly that I'm going to be ordering. All right, so now we've got all the holes that we need drilled into our blade. They're all chamfered with that little countersink bit right there. And I'm going to, this handle's nice and hot now that it's been drilled on with the big drill. And I'm gonna just cool it off. So now we go to this machine. Now we go to the bandsaw. Now it is really close to profiled. I just got to take it to the belt and clean it up. Let me strap a mask on. Strap a mask on and those safety glasses. that is all there is to the profiling process, because now this blade, well, this blade is Nitro V. It's ready to go to heat treat. And for ADCR V2, which you guys just saw on this live stream, at this stage, we'll take and wire wheel it, just the same we're about to do now, and then we'll go grind it. This one's not going to get ground until after heat treat. Like that. Now, get all that layout dye off of it. Give her an acetone bath. Just because that's the easiest way to get the layout dye off. Not that it makes any difference to the foil packet or inside the foil packet. Then I just take a file with Nitro V blades. I always take a file and just scrub the sides, because sometimes when you drill, those little counterboard, I believe, burrs, there's always some kind of burr somewhere. I don't want any burrs, considering these are going to be stuck in between a plate or plates to be quenched. I want them to be nice and flat. I don't want no little burrs or stick-ups anywhere. So I just scrub it with the file real good. And to get these ready for heat treat, these don't, well, I haven't experimented with it yet, but these aren't getting anti-scale coating. These guys are getting heat treating foil. On my messy bench. I'm gonna get rid of this stuff. It's gonna drive me insane. Okay. We're at 1,347 degrees over there now. Making our way on up. Once it gets to 1535, then the kiln will start clicking over there. It'll make some noise. And it's just the thermostat kicking it on and off. Going to hold itself at that temperature for my commanded time, which is about 25 minutes. They don't sit in there that long. They only have to go for 7 minutes. Right, so we're going to do our piece of foil. I have this little contraption on the bench here to keep everything flat and square while I do the little bends. One side. Got us a steel seam roller. We will roll out that seam just like that. And then I always use, I need to get this put away. I always use my plates, my old plate set, to do the ends cut them square, make sure they're square. Crimp. Just like that. Closed up on that end. And now just go ahead and drop our blade in. Just like so. And see that end is not square. We're going to make it square, or at least closer to square. See, it's okay if it's not perfectly square, but we got to have enough to fold over like that. That's it. This guy's ready to go in the kiln. Of course, it won't be going in the kiln right now. It's going to go with some brothers and sisters, but that's not today. We are waiting on our kiln right now to get up to 1535 degrees. Then once we've gotten there, they will set for 7 minutes and soak in their temperature, and then we will quench them in oil. I've got the oil heating up right now. That's my thermometer. I got one probe for this tank, one probe for this tank. Right now that oil is kind of swirling around with heat. One thing we can do to make it a little bit more consistent, even of a heat up, so we can give it a little stir. A very gentle stir, because in my oil there is and it's not quite time, but it's about time to change the oil. Right now there's a bunch of junk down in there. That is the anti-scale coating. When the anti-scale coating comes off, it just goes down into the tank. It's not a big deal, but when you see your temperature fluctuating and making little 5-degree up and down jumps on your little thermometer for your probe thermometer for your oil heater, it's because your oil is circulating warm little pockets of oil. Hopefully I didn't lose the stream. But anyhow, there you go. You've seen me take blades from profile to well, you're going to see pretty much a heat-treated blade today. And I don't usually show all this, not because I don't want to, but for the most part, nobody ever sticks around for this. It doesn't look like it's gotten any different now. It seems like everybody is checked out. I'll just grab me some water. Somebody drop me a comment. Let me know if there's anybody left in the stream, or if my stream is even still working, because we went from almost a couple hundred people to nobody, as if my stream dropped again. Turn that one off. We got some people jumping in. All right, we still good? Okay. We're getting close to doing some quenching. We're at 1494. We're almost there. I do still have a Signature Series blade that I got to do as well. There's this guy. It's a beauty. Pretty good looking blade. It did throw me out of the algorithm. I don't know what happened. What's up, John? So 15:08, we're getting there. We'll do us a quench on the live stream today. It's not even going to be that late either. I'll be out of here before 6, I'd say. So I guess all that's next for me to do is to get cracking on some more why couldn't I get it out? Heritage. Oh my goodness. All right. So I'll show you guys how I mark all this steel out. I do file work. If I can help it, I'll avoid it, but I do like doing some file work here and there. There, 1, 2, 4 out of this one. Three, 4. All right. I already have 1. This one I'm going to do some traditions. Let's see if we can get 2 traditions out of this. If I can't, I'll just go back to that 1 mentality. I cannot. What about adventures? I'm just blabbing and wasting time for a minute because I'm waiting on that oven. I don't know if you guys can hear it clicking over there. That I can make work. Guess it's going to get saved for that then. More 5:30 seconds Nitro V Adventures coming in. So this is my philosophy on things like that. I couldn't get 2 of these guys on this piece of steel. One's going to be too short. And if I do traditions, the cut's not going to be quite right. They won't fit. Both of them won't fit. But the Adventure has a little less of such a rounded belly that I can lay it back. I think I'll be able to get 2 in there. Otherwise, I'm just going to end up with with 1 short piece of something. Too short for any other model, then it's useless, and I don't want to do that. So I've also got some Nitro V Ramblers going right now. About 6 minutes, 7 minutes, we'll do a quench, guys. Hang around if you want to see some quenching action, some hot action going on. Some hot action. We've got 8 blades in the kiln right now. Got 7 wasps and a lineman. Right now, the kiln is clicking back and forth between temperature and time. When that time gets down to about 17 minutes, then we'll be ready to quench. Looks to me like my oil is actually done heating. So I'm going to go ahead and turn our oil heaters off. And my temperature, my current oil temperature is at 116. I like a minimum of 118. But you can see it's doing that bounding thing again where it's coming up, going back down. And when I stir it around, you can see lifting the thermometer way out to the very tip of the thermometer. It's hot right on the surface. That's just oil that's coming up from the bottom. See, that's just 132, 134 up in there, but when I drop it way down, into the oil is still down there at around that 115, 117 mark. So this is why it's important to know what exactly you're looking for in oil temperature, because again, if I set the very tip of my thermometer on the very surface of the oil, it's hot. It's way hotter than it is down inside the oil. You see that? 133. Maybe you guys don't know what you're looking for. That, it says 135 now, but we're not quenching on the surface. We got to stick the blade down inside of there. So that's the more important temperature. When it gets that warm and I still have time left, I'll just take it off and set it on the floor. I don't want my oil to get too warm. I don't want it too cold, and I don't want it too warm. And if I only have one tank heating at a time, when it gets like it's starting to come up too warm, I'll kind of slow one down, just set it on the floor, and so as not to continue to heat it as I'm quenching, I'm just going to switch my cold tank over to the plates that are hot and set this tank that is now full of hot oil on my cold plates. That way it'll start stabilizing in temperature. Now we know down inside of there our temperature was around that 117 degree mark, and if we stick our thermometer back down in there, you see we've now risen to that about 120 degree mark. And you see that it mattered that it was still going up. Even though the oil heater was off, the bottom of the tank, from having been in contact with the hot plates, is still going to raise the temperature. But now my temperature, even though I'm sitting here swooshing it around, mixing it, is sitting right on that 119, 120 mark. It's dead nuts sitting right on it. $121, $122, see there? Now we've reached a very stable temperature and at a pretty much a perfect range of temperature for heat treat, 120 degrees. I'm still showing I got up to 123, went down, 120. It's perfect. It's absolutely dead nuts perfect right now. See how rock solid the thermometer, the temperature is? Good Lord. But still, if I float that needle right dead on the tip of the surface, it's warmer. Again, all we care about is down the inside of there. Our oil is at the perfect temperature. We have gotten a full 7 minutes on our blades. Now the last few minutes of this cycle, we're going to go ahead and quench. So I'm going to leave my little bench fan off. But once all the blades are sitting on the rack, then I'll turn the fan on and kind of cool them that way, just slightly. But now we're going to go ahead and quench. My timer runs it starts at 25 minutes, runs down. Again, I need 7 minutes of soak at their destination temperature. I usually let them go for about 7.5 minutes, 8 minutes. When this gets down to 17, and it's going to switch right now. There we go. All right, so the first blade, I'm going to go ahead and do that lineman. About a 15 to 20 second quench is all it's going to need. And I've got about 20 seconds, 30 seconds to fix it. If it's got any warpage, I can put it in this little device down here and give it a little tweak This one is nice and straight, very, very straight. So we'll set it down. That one's quenched. All right, that's one. These guys only need about 12-15 seconds in there because they're smaller and quench faster. It's two. It's three. And the kiln does lose temperature, but half the point of the soak is to make sure that everything in the kiln is up to its proper temperature. Even though I'm opening and closing it, it goes back up to its target temperature so fast because the kiln never stops heating. This is why I run my cycles for the timing to go longer in order to give me time to quench blades. Because right now we're only about 1.5 to 2 minutes into quenching. That's only an extra 2 minutes of the blades sitting at their destination temperature. As long as we're not going past about double time is when we start seeing a difference. They'll be perfectly fine. I needed just a little bit of a tweak. Get back. Good to go. That's 5 of them. 6. A little tweak. There we go. 7. Or 6. 7. Right now we're only 3 minutes in. Little adjustment. Little adjustment. Good looking. That's 7. And last one. Only 4 minutes to do all those. About 3.5 minutes to do all those. One thing I'm looking for is that they all look even. Nobody looks majorly different. That is a good sign that everything went smooth. So in the end, our oil temperature is probably somewhere around that 138 to 145 mark. I'm okay with it getting all the way up to around that 150 mark. 155 mark is good. And our oil temperature is 140, 145. It's set down right there, 145. I was spot on. So there's our blades. Go ahead and turn our fan on. And all the fan's going to do is give it a nice gentle assist of cooling down. I just want it, I want them to shed that shell of heat that they've got around them. I'm not trying to quench them further, which is why I kind of let them sit there while the rest of them are quenching, and then let everything do their thing naturally. Put them in between plates. With bigger blades, sometimes I do put them in between plates, and that'll keep them straighter. The smaller, shorter blades really don't have too much of an issue with straightness. Again, you got about 20, 25, 30 seconds, depending on how long you leave it in the oil quenching, but you got about 20 seconds to straighten them out, give them a little counter bend. And I do all the little counter bending right here in this little slot. It's just a board with a slot taken out of it, and I'll just counter bend them in there. Anyway, I will let them sit there for about 10 or 15 minutes, and then once they've cooled off enough to touch, which doesn't take all that long, I will wipe all that excess oil off of them, and then we'll go put them in the oven. They will go in for 2 hours, 10 minutes, and then they will come back out, cool back off room temperature, and then go back in for another 2 hours, 10 minutes. So double draw process, and then they're heat treated. They're ready to be finished ground, put handles on them, the rest, the whole 9 yards there. Anyway, I'm going to call it on this one. As soon as these guys are cooled off, I'm going to stick them in the oven, and then it'll be time to go home. Anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in to today's live stream. If you have not done so, do hit that like button for me. It definitely helps the channel out. And subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell to let you know when I go live again, which is pretty commonly trending on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. So I think I might just set my schedule up to go live on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and have it set up. Anyway, I appreciate all you guys' support. Thanks for watching. See you.